Make sure hitting that like button when you come up in here. Make sure hitting that like button when you come up in here. I'm gonna let some of y'all get up in here real quick. What's the deal? What's the deal? What's the deal? Make sure hitting that like button. Make sure hitting that like button. Already. What's good with you? What's good with you? I'm gonna let some of y'all get up here real quick. What's good? What's good? What's the deal? What's the deal? Make sure hitting that like button when y'all come up in here. Make sure you're hitting the like button when you come up in here. Already. So, again, y'all seen, I know obviously by now y'all have to seen the news. If y'all ain't seen the news already, you definitely seen the news by now about the Houston Texans doing what they need to do, let going of a couple people on the offensive staff. The most important, well, the two most important is the offensive line coach Chris Schager and also the offensive coordinator Bobby Slowik. Like I was telling people all week, people were panicking because it wasn't done immediately after. People were mad that it wasn't done after the game in Kansas City. Like, I mean, let Texas fans tell it. They wanted Bobby to be fired. Like, as soon as that clock went double zero, triple zero, whatever it is, when all those number zeros on the clock, before we even got on the plane, people wanted Bobby Slowik to be fired right then and there. That's not how it works. And then we also got to think about this is also D'Amico Ryan's first time ever being in that position. He had to fire somebody, so he's going to like he was going to take time, and it made sense. Like I said in the video I was talking about with Doug Peters yesterday, that when it comes to Miko, like one you want to take time, one you want to take time to do it because it's your first time, and also this is one of his day ones. Like this is somebody that when he was a quality control guy back in San Francisco, the Bobby Slowik was a quality control guy with him. They were in the room together, cutting up tape, watching film, and they're both in there having discussions. Like, hey man, when I get my opportunity, if you ain't got an opportunity by that time, I'm bringing you along. I'm gonna hire you on my staff. And Bobby's saying the same thing. If I get the opportunity first and you ain't got an opportunity yet, I'm gonna give you opportunity. I'm gonna put you on my staff. So those were promises made way back when 2017, 18, 19, whatever. Those was promises made way back when both of those guys in San Francisco in the quality control room cutting up film. So D'Amico Ryans obviously got the job first. He was a linebackers coach, then the DC, then ended up becoming the head coach. And he brought Bobby along. Bobby went from the defensive side of the football over to the offensive side of the football. And when he went over to the offensive side of the football, it just made it a little bit more easier, made it a little bit more easier for him to bring him on the offensive staff and give him that opportunity as an offensive coordinator. So that's what it was. And he had again, this is day one. So again, of course, he was giving him a little bit longer leash. Now, D'Amico has actually shown you an actual good trait, kind of similar to the trait that Cal McNair showed back in 2020. That hey, I hire somebody and I let them do their job. I hire somebody and I completely stand back and let them do their job. Now, the problem with Calvin there back in 2020, and also the problem that we seen with with D'Amico Ryans in 2023 and 2024 is that you probably hired and put the wrong guy in place. Like Calvin there hired Bill O'Brien, hired Jack Easterby, and stood out the way. Now, to the detriment of the team, you trade away Hopkins, you give out all these bad contracts and things like that, and then you finally decide to move on from him and you bring in an actual real legitimate general manager and Nick Caserio. Now you're hands off. You're not in Nick Caserio's ear. You let Nick Caserio make the draft picks he needs to make. You let Nick Caserio go through the coaching hires they have to go through, the David Culley's, the Lovie Smith to eventually get to D'Amico Ryans. Now I do believe that Calvin there kind of did, kind of nudged him in the D'Amico Ryans direction. I don't think that he went after D'Amico Ryans by himself. I'm pretty sure the relationship of Cal and Hannah had to do with the reason why D'Amico Ryans is the head coach. But for the most part, he hires his guys and he lets them sit back. He sits back and he lets them do their job. Unlike the team up 45, when their owner is constantly in everybody's business and he hires people and he constantly micromanages or he hires people who he can control. We just seen the head coach hire he did just now. So that is a trait that I don't want. I don't want my people to have that type of trait. I prefer them to hire somebody and they let them do their job. But you have to do the right thing. You have to hire the right people. And that was the problem with D'Amico Ryans. D'Amico Ryans hired Bobby Slowik. He allowed Bobby Slowik to do what he needed to do on offense. He stood back and he focused on the defense. He let Bobby handle offense. And again, it's kind of slightly different though with a head coach because you're a head football coach. You need to be in control of everything. Like I said yesterday in the video, like we don't need situations like we're going up against Green Bay and we're coming out of a 2-minute warning and your quarterback does not understand and does not know what you want, doesn't have the expectation or know what you want to do coming out of this situation. If you want to score a touchdown, if you want to kick a field goal, if you want to drain clock, because y'all haven't had that conversation, you need to have that conversation with your quarterback. Your quarterback needs to know exactly what the game plan is and what you actually want in that situation. So you don't want to be that completely hands off. But I do like the fact that I don't micromanage. I hire somebody to do a job and I want them to do their job. And I don't want to sit back and micromanage every little thing that they do. Hey, shout out to that boy Chris for the super chat love. Definitely appreciate that. What if Jalen wins the Super Bowl? Best QB ever. I wouldn't say best QB ever, but definitely the best rookie ever. If Jalen Daniels wins tomorrow, it's hands down the greatest rookie season ever, and it will go down as the greatest rookie season ever unless somebody else wins the Super Bowl. I don't care about no type of numbers. I don't care about no type of numbers. If Jalen wins tomorrow and becomes he'll be the first starting rookie quarterback to go to a Super Bowl, hands down, he is the best rookie of all time, and it's not even close. It's not even close. And I don't know anybody else that will even come near that unless you get to and win the Super Bowl, let alone him win the Super Bowl. I ain't gonna say the greatest of all. I ain't gonna say he's the greatest quarterback of all time. He still got a long career to go, and we need to see more out of it. But again, as far as trajectory, we've been talking because that's one of the things that we talk about. Pat's on that trajectory of like no one's had a better start. Obviously, if he gets to a Super Bowl, that's the best start ever. Your first year, you in the Super Bowl, you win the Super Bowl. Definitely the greatest first season ever, and it won't ever be topped. I don't care about only way it'll be topped is if you go undefeated and win the Super Bowl. Like you gotta go undefeated, win the Super Bowl, stuff like that. Like those type of unseen things. So yeah, but like shout out to Chris for the super chat love. Definitely appreciate that. But you don't want that, like I was saying about the Green Bay situation, you don't want a situation like that. So you do want to be involved in the situation. You can't just completely be focused on the defense. You want to be involved. So that was the problem, that you put that person in place and they wasn't good in their job. They were okay at their job, but you treated them like they're a like they're a 10-year vet at that position, has plenty of success in doing things like that. Like they've had just a fabulous, magnificent offense for like the last 10, 15 years, 20 years plus. You won Super Bowls, went to Super Bowls, championships, produced MVPs, offensive player of the years, things of that nature. Only thing you did was have 1 year where your rookie quarterback won Offensive Rookie of the Year. Now, at that point in time, did he look like a top 5 quarterback? Yes. He looked like he was on that trajectory of being a top 5 quarterback. If he maybe at the very least, he definitely was a top 10 quarterback. Some people probably have him around like 6th or 7th. Some people did have him sneak into the top 5 conversation. I think the lowest reasonable was about 7th. If anybody had them anybody had them outside that, most of it was people just pretty much hating people like in the division, like in Jacksonville and Indianapolis and Tennessee, just hating, or Dallas or any other team or Carolina. People was just completely just hating. But people who are realistically actually like watching football, watching film, and part of the reason why they were watching them, and part of the reason why he was top considered in that conversation had nothing to do with numbers. It wasn't because people want to bring up this past year, and that rookie season was overblown anyway because he only threw 23 touchdowns, barely had 4,000 yards. That wasn't the reason why. It was because when you watch him play, he looked so mature on the football field. You can tell that was a rookie. It didn't look all gimmicky and gadgety. He's sitting up here dropping back. He's reading the defense. He's like his ball placement, his accuracy, his footwork, his mechanics. All those things was at elite level. He was doing things that 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, sometimes 10-year veterans wasn't doing with consistency. He was doing it in year one as a consistent. He was doing the year one. He was doing the year one as a very consistent. He was doing the very year one as a consistent. That's why people had him in that conversation of potentially being a top 5 quarterback. And that brings me to Gerard Johnson. Now, Gerard Johnson was not fired. Gerard Johnson is technically on this staff. I don't think that Gerard Johnson is going to be on the Houston Texans staff going forward. He might. I don't think he will be. I don't want him to be the offense coordinator. I know I've seen some people talked about it. I don't want him to be the offense coordinator. I have no problem with them interviewing him. I don't want him to be the offense coordinator. I think it's a couple reasons why they did not fire Gerard Johnson yesterday. One of the reasons is because I do think that they're possibly can and will interview him for the OC job. Also, if you fire him, you kind of ruin his chances of getting another job. And why does that matter to DeMeco Ryans and the Houston Texans? It actually matters twice. One, you don't want to put that out there that you're just firing everybody like that, because it's going to be hard for, like, when you have that reputation, it's going to be hard for you to attract other people to come in. Like, oh, he's just going to fire you anyway. So you don't want to put that out there. Plus, I also think that DeMeco Ryans genuinely likes some of these guys on the coaching staff, and actually, and also we know DeMeco Ryans is a nice guy, so I think he genuinely likes some of these guys, and also is a nice guy to some of these guys as well. So he doesn't want to do that to them. And I think possibly the most important thing is why you don't want to ruin his chances of getting another job, because it seems like the Jets and Aaron Glenn could potentially interview him and could potentially bring him in to be the OC. The reason why is because you do know, if you have a minority on your coaching staff and they get employed by another coaching staff, if they elevate anybody, actually not just coaching staff and front office, if you have a minority that's in the coaching staff or in the front office and they get a promotion to another organization, so a quarterbacks coach getting an offensive coordinator job, a linebacker coach getting the defensive coordinator job, a DC or OC potentially get a head coaching job, assistant general manager getting a general manager job, a scout getting an assistant general manager job at other organizations, the organization that they left. So in this case, the Houston Texans, if he goes to the Jets, get a compensatory draft pick. Just like how when you lose players in free agency and they sign big contracts and big deals, you get compensatory picks, third, fourth, sometimes even second round, very rare, but sometimes even second round compensatory picks. That happens. So you don't want, so it's also strategic. You don't want to fire Gerard Johnson because it might ruin the chance of getting an opportunity this season. And I actually think even if you fire him, you don't benefit if they do get a job. Like, if you fire him and he do get an OC job, it doesn't benefit you, because as far as getting the compensatory pick. So now we as Texan fans should hope that Aaron Glenn or whoever else needs an OC hires Gerard Johnson to be the OC, so we can get compensatory picks. That helps well for the Houston Texans as far as building the roster. Because again, I don't want Gerard Johnson to be an OC anyway for the Houston Texans. I said it yesterday. I'm gonna keep saying it right now. I think the most important thing, a non-negotiable for the Houston Texans when it comes to this next OC hire, it has to be somebody with some type of play calling experience. Some type of play calling experience. I don't care if it's NFL or collegiate or both. It doesn't matter. It has to be somebody with actual play calling experience and somebody that knows how to construct the offense. I don't want to get no hot name just because they're a hot name. I don't care about no receiver coach over there. The receivers is balling. over there in Pittsburgh. I don't care. I don't care about the receiving coach in Minnesota, the receiving coach in Pittsburgh and stuff like that, or receiving coach in Cincinnati. That does not matter to me. I don't care about none. I don't care about the running backs coach in Detroit. I don't care about none of that. I need somebody that's called plays. No more experiments. We just wasted potentially. We could potentially wasted 2 years of a franchise quarterback's career. 2 years of a rookie deal from a franchise quarterback, and also a rookie deal of the best cornerback in the league, and also a rookie deal of a defensive rookie of the year, and also the rookie deal. There's a lot of rookie deals on this roster that we could have potentially wasted because we walking around for 2 years with an experiment, with the experiment with experiment at your offensive coordinator position, because we don't know what he does play call. Again, some people end up being magnificent and ain't never called plays. Matt LaFleur left. I think left the Rams, went to Tennessee. Called plays for 1 year at Tennessee because he did. He was the offensive coordinator with the Rams, but he didn't call plays under McVay. Went over there to Tennessee, called plays for 1 year. Ended up going to Green Bay. Aaron Rodgers, who career looked like it was about to be over, they won 2 MVPs. And then we seen what Jordan Love has done for the last 2 years about been to the playoffs and things like that. And that's being at head coach position. So we've seen it both well for a guy who hasn't had play calling experience. But I feel like don't try it right now. We're past that point of experiment. We tried the experiment. Let's go to a sure thing. So it needs to be somebody with play calling experience. Now, me personally, this does not have to be a negotiable, but this is my personal preference and what I would do if I was in the Miko Ryan situation. I personally will also go after somebody who also had head coaching experience as well. So I have somebody else in the building with me that's know how it is to be a head coach and understand head coach responsibilities, understand game situations, like I just mentioned earlier about the whole Green Bay situation, that my quarterback doesn't know and doesn't understand, doesn't know what we want to do. A former head coach in that position is going to make sure that your quarterback knows that message. Or Hutchinson might have caught that pass. Hutchinson caught that pass. That might have been a first down. That might have been a bad spot that the Reds got you. Miko. If I was you, if I was in that situation, I would throw the challenge flag. We only down by 8. Our defense been playing well. We at midfield. I don't think we should go for it right now at fourth down. I don't think we should go for it right now at fourth down. Or, call a timeout because I'd rather waste a timeout than get sacked on the other side of the 50 and give the football back to them with a shorter field. Let me call a timeout and make sure I want to go for a fourth down and draw up a legitimate fourth down play. Things like that. Or also this, not taking delay of games. Remember the first game against Kansas City? We took 2 delay of games on the same damn drive. It was the drive where I think we kicked the field goal on in the fourth quarter. We took 2 delayed games in that drive. And I've been saying this all year long. I will come here after every game like, win or lose. Our urgency when we run up to the huddle, we just be so lackadaisical. We be like, it was like we didn't care what was going on. Like we was moving so slow. Again, I feel like a former head coach will understand those type of situations and also help D'Amico in that situation. So again, me personally, that's what I want D'Amico Ryans to do. And if I was D'Amico Ryans, I would go after a former head coach to have those options and have that help as well. And again, like I said earlier, we see how D'Amico Ryans likes to delegate. I hire you to do a job and you do it. I stay out the way. I let you do your job. Now, I do think he needs to be a little bit more hands-on and a little bit more in the room because you are the head football coach. You're not the head defensive coach. You're the head football coach. You're the head of the team. But some situations calls for that. I date you back to 2010 and 2011. 2010, they were about 2010. A lot of people in Houston want the Houston Texans to get rid of Gary Kubiak. It's actually kind of crazy because people just, for right now, people misremember how much people couldn't stand Gary Kubiak and how much people want to fire Gary Kubiak 10 plus years ago. But I digress. But like everybody knows how great a coach. And again, I like Gary Kubiak. I actually never really wanted us to get rid of Gary Kubiak, but a lot of people did want to get rid of Gary Kubiak, especially in 2010. That's the year that Aaron Foster led the league in rushing. But that season, our defense was horrible. Frank Bush was our defensive coordinator, and they were almost about to get rid of Gary Kubiak, but Gary Kubiak got rid of Frank Bush. Now that time, Bob McNair stepped in because of his relationship with Bud Phillips, Bum Phillips, sorry, his relationship with Bum Phillips, and made him, or at least through Wade Phillips, Gary Kubiak's way. And Gary Kubiak hired a defensive coordinator, experienced defensive coordinator. Because remember, Frank Bush was not an experienced defensive coordinator, and that was Frank Bush's first time calling plays for the defense. So Wade Phillips, an experienced defensive coordinator, Wade Phillips, a former head coach at Buffalo and at Dallas, and I think in New Orleans. I feel like he also was a head coach in New Orleans as well at one point in time. But I know he was the head coach for the Buffalo Bills in the late 90s. Also know he actually had just got fired from being the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys coming off coming out of the 2010 season. And what happens? He hires him. 2011 is the year he hires him, because 2010 is the last year of Frank Bush as a DC. 2011, Wade Phillips' first year as DC. The Houston Texans win 11 games, the very first ever division title. No, not 11 games, 10 games. I'm sorry. We went 10-6 that year. Won 10 games, very first ever division title, very first time ever going to the playoffs, win the playoff game, had the number 2 defense behind Pittsburgh that year. Went from one of the worst defenses in the NFL to the second best defense in the NFL. Now, again, you did make some other moves, like you went out there in free agency and you got Jonathan Joseph. Kareem Jackson was looking like a bust his rookie year. You also got Vance Joseph to be the DB's coach that year as well. You also went out there. You got what's his name? We already had Glover Quinn, because he moved Glover Quinn, because Glover Quinn was a corner. He moved Glover Quinn to safety, and then you hire Daniel Manning. That's what we drafted. We signed Daniel Manning, signed like I said, Jonathan Joseph. Obviously, we draft J.J. Watt. We Connor Barwin was coming back. I think Connor Barwin had an injury that previous year. So Connor Barwin was coming back off an injury. You draft Brooks Reed. You already had Sean Cody. Already had D'Amico Ryans. Already had who else? Brian Cushing. Like, already had Mario Williams. But remember Mario Williams ended up getting hurt in the 2011 season after week 4, week 5. So anyway, I digress. I'm bringing up all these names, but he took all that talent. And actually, no, I take that back, because it is relevant, because you had talent on the team like Mario Williams, like D'Amico Ryans, like Brian Cushing, like Connor Barwin, like Kareem Jackson, like Glover Quinn. You already had defensive talent on that team. Some of it wasn't to the level that you wanted it to be, and wasn't to the level that it should have been. It's like some of it, like Kareem Jackson, wasn't showing at the level it's supposed to be. But you bring in Wade Phillips, you bring in some free agents, like I say, like Jonathan Joseph and Daniel Manning, and you move some people here and there, and then boom, it went from one of the worst defense or the worst defense in the NFL to the number 2 defense in the NFL, and you instantly win the division, win the playoff game, and to this day, is still the best Texan team. From top to bottom, the 2011 Houston Texans team is still the best Houston Texan team. I know we have a better quarterback right now in C.J. Stroud than we had at that time, but from a team standpoint, that is still the best team that we've had. Oh, yeah, also, like I said, and also you draft Brooks Reed and you draft J.J. Watt. So you can do the exact same thing with the offense. And I see people throwing up the names, and I agree. I have no problem with Chip Kelly. He's not my first choice, but I have zero problem with Chip Kelly. And I seen a report that Chip Kelly is being looked at as being the Jags OC, Tampa Bay OC, or the Houston Texans OC. I think of those 3 teams, I do think that the one that makes the most sense for Chip Kelly is the Houston Texans. It is. Better quarterback, because you're talking about C.J. Stroud, Trevor Lawrence, Baker Mayfield. And I know Baker balled this past year. But those are your 3 options. Those are your three options. A quarterback that's got paid that we really don't know what we have in him just yet. And that's actually a bad thing because he's already been paid. And we might have already seen the best out of him. And then another guy who was a once a time rookie of the year and actually won a couple playoff games at two different stops and had a phenomenal year this year. Paid, but he's not getting that type of money. He's not getting the upper echelon quarterback money, but he's getting paid very decently. But you kind of think you already know what you're gonna get out of Baker, and you don't really think you're gonna get too much out of him. And then you had CJ Stroud, who can at the very least be a top at the very least could be a top 7 quarterback or end up being a top 3, top 2, potentially the best quarterback in the league. He has that type of talent. Then you look at the weapon standpoint. Now, again, they got. I mean, hey, Mike Evans, Brian Thomas Jr., Nico Collins. Mike Evans is kind of on the back end of his career. He has more years behind him than he has in front of him. Brian Thomas is a rookie, had a phenomenal rookie year. And we've seen what Nico is, and Nico's already got paid. And you just seen the other talent that this team has. And then you look at the rest of the team as well. All you got to do is worry about the offense. Again, you're the offensive coordinator. But for Brian Kelly, for him, the best situation, I feel like would be Houston Texans has a relationship with D'Amico Ryans because he was the head coach in Philadelphia when D'Amico was there. After D'Amico got traded from the Houston Texans to the Philadelphia Eagles. So again, makes sense. Has a relationship there. Also, the relationship with Ohio State, even though CJ and Brian Kelly didn't cross paths at Ohio State, they travel in the same circles. You don't think that CJ's been up to Columbus anytime this season, bye week, after we had a short week, as far as we played on Thursday night and we had a long layoff until our next game. You don't think he went up and pulled up to Ohio State? You don't think that Ryan Day, which again, as of right now, CJ's still the most successful quarterback coming out of Ohio State, period, let alone under Ryan Day's regime? You don't think that him and Chip haven't had any type of interactions? I'm pretty sure Chip watched plenty of CJ Stroud's tape, Ohio State, and in the NFL tape. So I'm pretty sure they have, not saying they have the best relationship and not saying that they buddy know each other, but I'm saying is they've traveled in the same circles. They've traveled in the same circles and they have a familiarity with each other. So it makes to me a lot of damn sense. And also, he checks off all the boxes. Experienced play caller, both NFL and collegiate experienced play caller. Also, former head coach, collegiate and NFL, 2 stops in the NFL. So it makes a lot of sense. No, has a relationship with your current head coach, and also could potentially probably already had a somewhat passive, not I don't want to say passive, but had somewhat distant type of relationship with your quarterback. And I mean this in a good way. Like they haven't really been around each other directly, but they know each other through channels and through other people. So if to me it checks all the boxes for me. Again, he's not my first choice. I told y'all who my first choice was yesterday when I did the video yesterday. My first choice is Doug Peters for all the reasons that I laid out. If you want to know, if you haven't seen, go check out that video. I laid out all the reasons why Doug Peters is my number one choice. And at the very least, that's the first person I'm calling because of all the other things that comes along with him and experience and winning and also putting together a coaching staff. But then again, Chip Kelly, who knows how to hire an offensive line coach because he hired an offensive line coach in Philadelphia when he got the job in 2014. That offensive line coach is still the offensive line coach in Philadelphia right now, while they could potentially be going to their 3rd Super Bowl in 8 years. Because if they win tomorrow, they'll be going to their 3rd Super Bowl in an 8-year span. And their offensive line is one of the strengths of their team. And that offensive line coach was hired by Chip Kelly back in 2013, 14, whenever that was. So 12, 11 years ago. So again, he knows how to hire. Also, He's also hired staff because he hired staff in Oregon, had to hire a whole staff at UCLA, had to hire staff in Philadelphia, and also had to hire staff in San Francisco. So he's had to put together staff. So I'm pretty sure he could definitely put together an offensive line coach. And again, we up here talking about receivers. I know a lot of Texas fans, me included, want the Texans to go out there and get another weapon because we don't want to go into another playoff situation where the only reliable receiver that your quarterback, CJ Stroud, has to throw to is Nico Collins. And Nico Collins, I think he's the best receiver in the league. Nico Collins has yet to play a full season. Because this year here, he missed 5 games. That's the reason why he barely got 1,000 yards. He only has 1,005 yards. He literally has 1,005 yards because he missed 5.5 games. That's the reason why he doesn't have 12, 11, 13, 14, 1,500 yards because he missed too much time. And he was your only receiver that was available for you, viable receiver that was available for you in the playoffs. And I believe something was amiss and something was going wrong in that Kansas City game because there was a lot of time for long stretches and junctions of the game that Nico Collins, number 12, who is the best wide receiver on the Houston Texans, was on the sideline during multiple plays when you're driving trying to score a touchdown to either take the lead or at least tie the game. And your best option on the outside was not on the field for multiple stretches, not just a play here and a play there, constant plays, consecutive plays, to the fact that both Joe Buck and Troy Aikman calling the game noticed it and made comments about it. Go watch the tape. So I do believe, and a lot of Texas fans do want the Houston Texans to go out there and potentially sign some free agents, potentially trade for some free agents. But also, there is a such thing that happens in April every year in the NFL season called the NFL Draft. And the Houston Texans have a first round pick number 25. There could potentially be a receiver there that comes from the Ohio State 2024 national champion, Ohio State, named Ime Ibuka, who played with quarterback CJ Stroud his last 2 years. Also, he's also a receiver that's being coached by Chip Kelly, who's the OC for that same the Ohio State national champions of the 2024 season. So, familiarity, like I said earlier, a lot of familiarity. So it makes a lot of sense. And I'm completely cool with them hiring Chip Kelly. Completely cool with them going out there and hiring Chip Kelly. I think that is a good move. A good move at all. I mean, a good move. Same thing. Byron Leftwich, I think that's a good move. What was another name that I seen that could potentially be one? Um, there was another name that I seen. Oh, another one was Clint Kubiak. See, this the Clint Kubiak, the OC out of New Orleans. This is the thing about Clint. Um, like kind of like I said, I really don't want no more projects. I really don't want no more projects. I know, like technically, he called plays last year, so like technically, like by the letter of the law, technically, like on technicality, like he has play calling experience, but he has less play calling experience than Bobby Slowik right now. Like not. Oh, he had less play calling experience before Bobby got here. Like no, Bobby has had 2 years. Bobby currently has 2 years of play calling experience, and 2 times he's been in the playoffs with play calling experience. And you talk about Clint Kubiak has 1 year of play calling experience, and he started off hot, and it throughout the middle of the season. I understand. when he had Derek Carr as a starting quarterback, and then he lost Derek Carr, and then it went through a whole like juncture of a whole bunch of different quarterbacks. And I know people talking about, Clint Kubiak was almost the OC last time. No, he wasn't. Like it's the same thing with like Cliff Kingsbury. Like no, like Clint Kubiak and and Cliff Kingsbury were not almost the OC 2 years ago. It was always Bobby Slowik. He interviewed other guys for the job because that's what you do. He interviewed the other guys because that's what you do at that position. You interview guys constantly. You interview guys constantly, but you also want to get the familiarity, get the familiarness of interviewing guys, okay? And so you know what to expect in the interview. Would you expect these people and also you also want to have conversations. It's just like a draft. It's just like when like again, you don't just draft, you don't just have and scout the players who you like. You scout several players and have an opinion on several different players. Like you have an opinion on several different players. You have a scouting report on 7 different players because hey, that scouting report might help you when that player is a free agent. That scouting report might help you when you're about to play against that team that he was drafted to. That scouting report might help you if that player gets on the trade block. So that's why. That's why you interview. That's why you scout those players. That's why you interview guys. That hey, you interviewed him a couple years ago. Now, hey, I interviewed him a couple years ago. This vacancy's back. Maybe I should talk to him again. Type situation. But that report, that's completely false. I'm telling y'all right now. Any report that said that Cliff Kingsbury almost got the job and Clint Kubiak almost those guys was never almost anybody. It was always going to be Bobby Slowik. Both Bobby and D'Amico has said that several different times. Bobby said the moment D'Amico got hired in Houston, he knew he was going with the Texans. He wasn't staying in San Francisco because he knew he was going to Houston with D'Amico Ryans. D'Amico said the same thing, that once he got the job, accepted the job in Houston, and he was putting together the staff, Bobby's one of the first people that he already knew he was bringing along with him as long as he wanted to be here. And Bobby was going to come. So, like, you those reports is just reports. They just headline reports, but those reports are not true. At least the statement of they almost got the job 2 years ago or the first time. Now, he could potentially get the job now. Not to say that, hey, he wasn't interested in the job, and not to say that, hey, D'Amico wasn't interested in potentially bringing him in on the staff as well. But Bobby was always going to be the guy. It was just it. Bobby was always going to be the guy. But I don't he had a couple good games to start the season off, but like I say, it went down the hill, and I don't want no more experience. Give me a true, legitimate experience play caller, bro. Give me a legitimate play caller, somebody with true experience for a couple of seasons. Hey, shout out to that boy Biggs for the super chat love. Definitely appreciate that. It is frustrating to see. It is frustrating to see Kingsbury very successful with Washington offense, knowing that we could have had him could have had him could have had him and as much could have had him and be in a much better place. Hey, shout out to Biggs for the super chat love. Definitely appreciate that. You're right about that. For me personally, I ain't gonna speak for nobody else. But for me personally, I'm not gonna say frustrating, but I am kind of I don't want to say annoyed either because I ain't gonna make no bones about it. I am a Cliff Kingsbury fan. I feel differently about Cliff than a lot of people because I am also a Texas Tech fan. Like, and Cliff Kingsbury is one of the reasons why I'm a Texas Tech fan. I was a fan of Cliff Kingsbury in Texas Tech when I was a fan with Cliff Kingsbury at Texas Tech when he was the quarterback. Like Mike Leach and that offense, the way Mike Leach designed the air raid offense for Texas Tech in the early mid 2000s, and Cliff Kingsbury being and Cliff Kingsbury being the quarterback at that time. I mean, that's I mean, that's the reason why I like football, but that's the reason why I'm a Texas Tech fan. That's the reason why was and still am a Texas Tech fan to this day. So any support of Cliff, I've always supported. I was supportive of Cliff Kingsbury when he was at A&M. He was the offensive coordinator under John Mizell. I was ecstatic when we hired him at Texas Tech to be the head coach. Um, I wasn't upset when we fired him because I did think it was time for us to move on because we needed um we need to move. We need to move on. I was rooting for him. I wanted to do well at Arizona, but I wanted us to. I wanted us to hire Cliff Kingsbury. I was one of the people who did want us to hire Cliff Kingsbury. But I understand that I feel differently about Cliff Kingsbury than a lot of other people do, and I'm glad he's out there being successful right there with Washington. I'm glad Jalen Daniels is out there being successful in Washington. I actually want Washington to beat Philadelphia tomorrow and go to the Super Bowl. That way you don't hear any more. You don't hear any more about CJ's rookie year. You're not gonna hear no more about CJ rookie year anyway. But you definitely ain't gonna hear no more about it now, especially if he goes out there and goes to the Super Bowl. So hey, shout out to Biggs for the super chat. Love, definitely appreciate that. Unless I'm not frustrated, but I was out on Bobby Slowik. Shout out to my boy Wise. Me and Wise, we was out on Bobby Slowik the first preseason game last year. It was the second preseason game. It was the first home preseason game against the Miami Dolphins. And I know it was a preseason game. I was done with Bobby then. I'm like, I don't like what I see. And then that first game against Baltimore, which again, Baltimore ended up being the Texans and Bobby Slowik's kryptonite as far as the offense, because we have yet to score a touchdown. We played against that team 3 times in a 2-year span, and we have yet to score a touchdown. I did not like what Bobby's done. Now, again, Bobby had some moments. And I ain't gonna lie to you. Last Saturday, a week ago, against Kansas City, that was probably Bobby's best game. I ain't gonna say best game. I ain't gonna say his best call game ever, but it was his best. I believe it was his best game this season. I definitely believe that. I believe truly that this was his best game this season. I feel like that first drive coming out halftime was one of his. I think that was one of his best drives ever of calling plays. The problem with that, I feel like that's more of an indictment on how bad his season was than really as far as how, hey man, that's a good drive, that's a good game, because your best offensive performance of the season mustered up 12 points. Let me say that again. Clearly, that was his best offensive game that he's called all season long, and it only mustered up 12 points. Only one touchdown was orchestrated in that sequence. His best called game, he can only get one touchdown and get 12 points. That's an indictment on how bad his season was. That's an indictment on how bad and how mediocre his season was. It is. Trill, I seen you put some in the know the Airbnb, which is kind of funny because if I recall, just 4 straight years ago, you were pounding the table for the Texans to hire Airbnb as the head coach. Now you wouldn't even want him as the OC, but you pounding the table wouldn't be the head coach. And I told y'all then that I wasn't really fond of him being the head coach. Um, so yeah, and then you also say no to Chip Kelly. Why no to Chip Kelly? Please tell me. I would like to know, sir, specifically why no to Chip Kelly? Because to me it seems like that Chip Kelly is actually the fans' favorite. Like he's the runaway favorite. I see Chip Kelly on a lot of timelines. I feel like that Chip Kelly is the runaway favorite. And I do think some of his kind of recency, he just won the national championship with Ohio State. But and also I think his name has been in the report. Again, not my first choice, but definitely would take him. Definitely, absolutely would. Absolutely would. J Mill, Nick, nigga, tell Nick, tell Nick he better get this free agency in this draft right. You tell him that. You know, we still waiting. We still wait. Hey, J Mill, we still waiting on that black Saquon jersey. And we still waiting on the black Saquon jersey. Frank Wright sounds like a good idea. Hey, I mentioned it yesterday. That's one of the reasons why I bring in Doug Peters, because I think he can bring in Frank Wright to be his quarterbacks coach. And they won a Super Bowl together as head coach, offensive coordinator. I'm pretty sure they can win one as a head as an offensive coordinator, head offensive coordinator slash quarterbacks coach. And then if Doug Peters goes out there and get another job eventually, then you can also move Frank Wright to be the OC. I don't think Frank Wright gonna go nowhere because Frank Wright right now is in his mid 60s. You talking about another 2 years from now? We talking about in his late 60s. Why you don't like Kelly? Okay, so yeah, okay. I mean, a lot of people wrong on Airbnb. I was really just joking. A lot of people wrong on Airbnb. But why you don't like Kelly? I want to know specifically why you don't like Kelly. Why Trill, I want to know specifically why you don't like Kelly. Like I want to know why you don't like Chip Kelly. Why you don't like Chip? Like specifically, why you don't like Chip? Because I think if you tell me why you don't like Chip, I think I could possibly ease, or I probably can't change your mind, but I could possibly I could let you. Now I ain't gonna tell you where you're wrong at, but like I could I could ease the situation if you tell me why you don't like Chip Kelly. Because I'm pretty sure I think I know, but I don't want to assume. I don't want to assume. Don't want to assume. So I would like for you to tell me why. But to truly tell the class why he doesn't like Chip Kelly. But like I was saying, like I just think that you just you got when it comes to D'Amico, you have to get this right. And I knew he was gonna get it right as far as like letting go of Bobby. Again, I know a lot of people were nervous, like, especially while moves and things were being done throughout the week. I knew that, like I said yesterday, I'm gonna keep saying this, that especially the first time, like when you like somebody and you cool with somebody, you don't like you want to find a way to let them down easy. You know what I'm saying? Like, what I'm saying when you got to break up with them, you don't want to break up with her just anyway. She go out, she get the tripping and get the throwing stuff. You want to make sure y'all in a public place. So if she get the tripping, get the tweaking, get acting crazy, there's witnesses out there. They say, hey, chill out. Or you know what I'm saying, you want to let her down. You know what I'm saying, you want to let her down a little easy. You know what I'm saying, you want to soften the blow and let her down a little bit easy. And I feel like that's what D'Amico wanted to let Bobby down easy. Now I did think I ain't gonna lie, I am surprised that it was reported as I am surprised that it was reported as him firing Bobby. Because I really thought, especially with him saying he's gonna take a week to figure stuff out, I really thought it was gonna be a mutual parting of the ways. Even though there's really not a such thing as mutual parting of the ways. But that way, that way, they both save face. He doesn't have to fire him. He doesn't have to be the bad guy, the villain, and you get the job done because he's not no longer here. And Bobby doesn't have being fired on his resume. So if he goes off somewhere else, he's still cool. He doesn't have fired on his resume. It's a mutual parting of the ways. He can take some time off, whatever, and then get back into coaching. So that's what I thought would be reporting, even though it technically with him being fired. But hey, again, I thought that was how it was going to be reported. So when they say he got fired, that he relieved them of the dudes, I'm like, wow, okay. And I do think some of that also another reason why he wanted to wait, because like I said, Like anytime somebody tell you, "Hey, I gotta wait to make my decision," that never bodes well. The longer that you wait, because again, if he wanted to keep Bobby, he would have came out there Monday when he did his press conference and said, "Bobby staying." He would have said that. Now, no, simply he also could have said Bobby won. Bobby's I'm letting go of Bobby. But again, he could have went out there and said, "I'm Bobby staying." So the fact that he was saying and prolonging it, you just delaying the inevitable. Like you're making it worse, and it never bolts out well. But I do think that maybe potentially one of the dominoes that he was one of the dominoes and one of the things he was waiting on was to see if Bobby could potentially get some real traction at some of these head coaching vacancies. Maybe so. And maybe, a team like Detroit losing so early and Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson already being available to be hired before at the very same time that Bobby's able to be available to be hired, kind of sped up the process a little bit. You know what I'm saying? And now the Jets didn't have to sit back. Okay, we're gonna sit back and wait for Aaron Glenn. We're gonna sit back and wait for Aaron Glenn. Like, no, we can go out there and hire Aaron Glenn right now. So again, I didn't think Bobby would get a job. No way. I thought it'd be kind of like hard pressed for Bobby to get a job. But you just holding out hope because teams make bad decisions. Arizona hired Cliff Kingsbury after he got fired from Texas Tech. So stranger things have happened. So he got fired and got hired as head coach. He got fired at collegiate level and got hired as head coach. So Bobby could have potentially got a head coaching job, even though his season didn't go the way we wanted it and expected to. Did still go to still went to the playoffs back to back years, still won 2 division titles, went to the playoffs, put up a lot of points, a couple points in the playoff games, in both playoff runs. You had offensive rookie of the year. You had 1,000 yard this year. You had 1,000 yard receiver, 1,000 yard running back. Your quarterback didn't quite throw for 4,000 yards, but almost threw for 4,000 yards. But you also didn't play the last game of the season too. So there's a lot of different things, and you could also had injuries and stuff like that. So there could have been a they could have smoothed things over, and you could have possibly spent it some type of way. And like a team in the franchise that probably makes bad decisions already, like the New York Jets normally do, go out there and hire Bobby Slowik to be their head coach. And I think that maybe D'Amico was kind of hoping on that, so that way he wouldn't have to fire him and let him go. But like, think about this, because kind of funny that once all those vacancies was gone, Jacksonville was like, remember when we let go of Bobby, when we let go of Bobby, Dallas and hired their head coach. Chicago hired Ben Johnson. The Jets hired Aaron Glenn. Jacksonville hired their head coach. Like the only job that's left is New Orleans. And Bobby wasn't tied, and Bobby wasn't tied to Dallas either, but Bobby wasn't tied to New Orleans. Bobby was tied to the Jets, and also heard a little rumblings that Jacksonville potentially could be having him on the list. Oh, and Vegas. Oh, yeah, also another team. Vegas hired Pete Carroll. So um those jobs, like the game of musical chairs. The chairs were being filled up with like people were sitting down, the chairs were gone, and Bobby was still standing. So D'Amico was like, you know what, hey, let me. And also, there's another thing too. Let me rip this band-aid off. Let me end it now. Let me go ahead, fire him now. That way, I can be on the search for my next potential offensive coordinator because Chip Kelly could go somewhere. Doug Peters can go somewhere. Clint Kubiak can go somewhere. Um, Byron Leftwich is throwing his name back in the ring as far he can go somewhere. All these just these other guys that could potentially go out there that who knows exactly who D'Amico not only wants to hire, but just wants to interview and talk to, have a conversation with, could potentially get, like I said, a game of musical chairs. And now these jobs is getting filled up. And the Texans offensive coordinator job is still standing and being occupied by Bobby Slowik. So you had to go ahead and get rid of Bobby Slowik now so you can go ahead and make your decision going forward. Hire who you need to hire, see who you need to see, talk to who you need to talk to, etc. Whatever it is, so you can go out there and know exactly what you want to do going forward. So that's another reason why you went ahead and you made that decision. So after all this, I do think that he was sitting back watching other jobs being filled. Bobby not being have the ability to take these other jobs, and these other jobs being filled. Bobby's not able to take these other jobs, and these jobs are being filled with the quickness. And now I gotta make a decision. And so, like I said, I know a lot of people. I think the consensus is most people want Chip Kelly. Like I said, I have no problem with Chip Kelly. I'm gonna keep saying that. I have zero problem with Chip Kelly. They bring it to me. Chip Kelly checks off all the boxes. He to me. Chip Kelly checks off all the boxes. So I have no problem with Chip Kelly. Again, I think that Doug Peters is a better candidate because I do think that he checks off all the boxes and is more successful with his checking off because again, he has a Super Bowl as a head coach. Chip Kelly won an NFC East. Now Chip Kelly did win the NFC East and lost in the first round of the playoffs that year. But Nick Foles had a good year. Nick Foles had a good year. Now that's when people really thought Nick Foles could be a franchise quarterback. But then Doug Peters took Nick Foles after we already knew he was a backup. Doug Peters did take Nick Foles to win the Super Bowl with. And then had Nick Foles playing had Nick Foles playing well coming off the bench again to the point that Jacksonville gave him a contract foolishly and then Jacksonville didn't do anything. You know what, that's this is very crazy. This shows you how small world. Cause Chip Kelly was the coach of Philly, gets replaced by Doug Peters. Doug Peters goes on and wins a Super Bowl with the team that he replaced with the wins a Super Bowl with that team. The quarterback that Chip Kelly had, Nick Foles, Doug Peters wins the Super Bowl with that quarterback. Nick Foles goes because of the success he has with Doug Peters, gets a contract with the Jacksonville Jaguars, flames out, and then Doug Peters ends up becoming the head coach at Jacksonville. And now both Chip and Doug Peters could both be playing musical chairs with the Houston Texans job as the OC currently right now. Full circle. It's crazy. It's crazy. Small world. Small world. So that's you said that's your top three. Okay, I mean, uh, like I said earlier, my issue with Kubiak is just not unless you're talking about Garrett. Now, if you're talking about Garrett Kubiak, a whole different conversation. But if you're talking about Clint, which more than likely you are, I kind of feel like it's kind of like we doing the same thing. Answer the question. Answer the question about Chip, bro. Yeah, I want to know why Chip why people don't want Chip. I mean, if that was the case, if because that's probably the reason why, like, cause I think that's probably the reason why Chip, why like somebody like Trill said he doesn't like Chip. This is the thing. Chip is very similar to Bill O'Brien. I would not hire Chip Kelly to be my head coach. I would not hire Chip Kelly to be my head coach and give him power and authority, allow him to be the general manager, allow him to be allow him to be the general manager, allow him to do these other type of things. But um but him being a employee, him being an employee, and he know what he's doing offensively. He know what he's doing offensively. Because the reason why because even though the offensive lines would, like, again, we think like the offensive lines was the main problem. We don't know what type of offense we're going to run, and that was also part of the problem with Chicago offensive line coach, that we had an offensive line coach that had no familiarity and has never ever coached the zone blocking scheme, this Kubiak Shanahan offense. So they kind of clashed a little bit. So you had an offensive line coach coaching one way, or not used to coaching these plays or this scheme that we're coaching, that we're trying to implement. Again, also we're running not a real version of the Kubiak Shanahan offense as well. So those two things kind of clash with each other. So I do think that hiring the OC is the first thing you should do. Another reason why you don't get rid of Gerard Johnson, because you don't know if the quarterback coach. I mean, you don't know if um you don't know if whoever you hire as OC even wants to keep Gerard Johnson. Because they might want to keep Gerard Johnson. They might like Gerard Johnson. They might have worked with Gerard Johnson in the past. Don't know, because I don't know who they're going to hire. But so you keep Gerard Johnson because for several different reasons. But I think the main thing is, hey, hire who you're going to hire, whoever you're going to hire as offensive coordinator, because that way you'll know exactly what type of system you're going to run, what type of scheme you're going to run, and you go from there. Because again, more than likely, especially like I said earlier, I want somebody with me personally, want somebody with some type of coaching experience as far as some type of head coaching experience, because they also know how to put together a staff. Because we're talking about, again, both Chip Kelly and Doug Peters both had to put together NFL staffs in two different places. Chip had to put together NFL staff in Philly. They had to put NFL staff together in San Francisco. Uh, um, the Peters had to put together a staff in Philly, and also had to put together a staff in Jacksonville. Chip also had to put together a staff at UCLA and also at Oregon. So we're talking about guys who had to put together a complete staff. Now they only got to put together half of the football, the offense side. They ain't got to worry about a defensive staff and a defensive minded coach and a linebackers coach and the linebacker assistant. All they gotta do is worry about what they're gonna do on the offense. And then some of these guys you are going to keep, like some of the guys on the offensive staff, you're going to keep. Like you're going to keep some of these other coaches. Now you might want to change some of them because you might have your own team, your own people you want to bring in. But a lot of these people you're going to keep as well. You're going to keep. There's going to be some some overhauls. So you're going to bring in some, and you're going to also keep some as well. And I do think that that person has to bring in a good offensive line coach. And like I said earlier about Chip Kelly, hired an offensive line coach in Philadelphia when he got the job in 2013. That offensive line coach is still there right now and is on his potential way onto his third Super Bowl in 8 years as their offensive line coach. And that's one of the strongest units, one of the best units on the Philadelphia Eagles. One of the reasons why they running back rushed for over 2,000 yards this season. And if he didn't sit out the last game, probably would have broken the NFL rushing record. So, and he's still there, and he's been there through three regimes: Chip Kelly's, Doug Peters, and what you call this right now. He's already been to two Super Bowls. One Super Bowl in 2017, lost one in 2022, and could potentially be going to another one this year. So there's these guys have a lot of history and have a lot of nuances and know how to put together a staff. These guys know how to put together a staff. They know what to do. Um, I, these guys know what to do. So I do think that these guys are the guys that you need to go after. I know people, like I said, people bringing in Clint Kubiak. I think the Kubiak name kind of holds a little bit weight because of, again, we've seen this offense be successful. And I've also seen some people complain about the offense. Me, I'm kind of like on both sides. Like I don't complain about the offense. I do think the offense has some complications, like the play calls are a little bit too long, and that's part of the reason why like CJ doesn't have enough time to go through the reads. But I do think that we don't need to have. We shouldn't be completely 100% married to a specific system because we don't have a system quarterback. We don't have somebody that you have to try to fit into a box. We don't have a peg that you're trying to fit into a hole. We have the guy. We have the centerpiece. We have the centerpiece. And you build off of him. You get the type of weapons that make him, you give the type of weapons that play well with his style of play. You get this type of coaching that coaches well with his style of play. You divine and you create, you design and you create an offense around his skill sets. Now you trying to fit somebody into what you want to do. Like that's what you do with Jimmy Garoppolo. That's what you do with Brock Purdy. That's what you do with that's what we do with Brock Purdy. That's what we do with Jimmy Garoppolo. That's what you do with Kirk Cousins. It's really what you do with Dak Prescott. That's what you do with some of these other quarterbacks who can have good seasons. That's what you do with a Nick Foles. But guys like Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen and Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson, Jalen Daniels, these guys here, CJ Stroud, these guys here, you create an offense around them. You don't treat them like Matt Schaub and you just put them in your offense. Because remember, this offense was created around John Elway and the older version of John Elway. Not the John Elway that was dragging bad Denver Bronco teams to a Super Bowl. I'm talking about older John Elway. I'm talking about the older John Elway. And this system is basically built around him. And we're mimicking it and we're taking off of it. And that's cool. That's fine. I mean, and trying to modernize it and do things. But you don't need to try. What you need to do is he's the centerpiece. Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, CJ Stroud. You build the offense around him. He's not Matt Schaub or Kirk Cousins or Jimmy Garoppolo or Brock Purdy, where you like fix them and try to put them into this box. No, 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 no. That ain't it. This ain't that type of movie. This ain't that type of party. You build the offense around them. So you go out there. So I don't want to be married specifically to a system. I do think that some of that got to go with Kubiak, but I do think that Kubiak, Clint, especially being around his dad, I do think that he probably could be a little bit innovative and maybe create some things. I just think that it has to be a non-negotiable somebody with experience, and I'm not in the business of wasting prime years of my talent. I'm not in the business of wasting prime years of my superstars. You don't want to get to a point where you gotta pay CJ and we haven't done anything with it. Like you don't want to be at that point. You don't want to be at the point like he's got paid and we haven't seen any success. Now again, that doesn't mean that because Josh Allen got paid and Josh Allen can break all the barriers tomorrow. Lamar Jackson got paid, but we have seen Lamar Jackson win some MVPs though. Joe Burrow's got paid now. Joe Burrow has made it to the Super Bowl, but hasn't won one yet. Really, the only one who did anything before he got paid really is Patrick Mahomes. But he won Super Bowl and then eventually got paid. I got paid like that say like a couple months later. But like you want to hurry up. And you don't want to waste prime years of this because again, you got a lot of talent, a lot of different places. Offensive and defensive side of football. This defense, the way they was turning the football over and the way they were playing, especially at home, this defense was primed and ready to win a lot of games and go on a strong playoff run and potentially with a Super Bowl winning defense. The offense and the lack of scoring when they needed to, controlling the game when they needed to, and capitalizing on the opposing offense mistakes when the defense was able to give you extra opportunities, and the failing to capitalize on those things is the reason why we're here right now. Why we're not getting ready to play in the AFC Championship game tomorrow. The reason why we're now officially looking for offensive coordinator. People probably been looking for offensive coordinators all year long, but we officially looking for offensive coordinator because the offense has not shown up. Really, pretty much none this season. Really hasn't. Really hasn't. Hey man, hey, y'all got it, bro. The Chief fan, bro. You got it, bro. Hey, yeah, I got it. Hey, enjoy it. That's all I'm gonna say. Is enjoy it. Enjoy it. I, I hope you enjoy it. I really do. I hope you enjoy it because when we handle what we handle, and trust me, if you don't believe me, call anybody in Nashville, call anybody in Indianapolis, call anybody in Jacksonville, Florida. When y'all let us in, well, no, forget that. Not let us in. When we open that door, there's no getting rid of us. There's no getting rid of us. From 2002 to 2011, no playoff appearances. One season had a winning record. That was 2009. Two other seasons was 500, 8-8, 8-8. That was it. 2011 hit. It didn't matter who's the head coach, who's the quarterback. The division was ours, and we was in the playoffs. Gary Kubiak, T.J. Yates, Gary Kubiak, Matt Schaub, Bill O'Brien, Brian Hoyer, Bill O'Brien, Brock Osweiler, Bill O'Brien, Deshaun Watson, Bill O'Brien, Deshaun Watson, D'Amico Ryans, C.J. Stroud, D'Amico Ryans, C.J. Stroud. Won a playoff game, lost one, won one, lost one, won one, won one, won one. 5-2. Wait, no. Is it 5-2? No, 6-2. We won division 8 times. Yeah, 6-2. 6-2 in the division round. I mean, in the wild card round. So we haven't, like I said, and we're 0-6 in the division round. But once we get in, it's hard to get rid of us. Like once we get in, it's hard to get rid of us. So I enjoy it because, like I said, once we get this offensive coordinator situation handled, and like I said earlier, when I brought up the reference about when Gary Kubiak went out there and hired Wade Phillips, you made a couple free agent moves. You got two of your, because again, your problem was the secondary. So what you go out there and do free agency wise, see this. And this is what I want the Texans to do on the offense. Man, it's so much parallel to it's just reverse. It's the mirror. It's the mirror reverse. It's the mirror. It is the absolute mirror reverse of 2011. I mean 2010 rather. My bad. The mirror reverse of 2010. Offense played phenomenal. You had the league leading rusher, Arian Foster, with 16,000 yards, 16 touchdowns. You had Andre Johnson was top 5 in receiving. You had Matt Schaub was top 5 in passing. but your defense was so putrid. You gave up a lot of points, specifically in the secondary. So what you go out there and do? You fire a friend coach, a young play caller, and Frank Bush, then they non-experienced play caller defensively, and you hire somebody who's an experienced defensive coordinator, experienced play calling defense, and a former head coach to help you in certain situations. But by this time Gary has been coaching in the field as a head coach for a minute, and you go out there free agency, you get Jonathan Joseph, you get Daniel Manning to help your secondary. Then you draft on the defensive line, you draft J.J. Watt, you draft Brooks Reed, you draft some other players. And now you went from having one of the worst defenses to the number 2 defense in the NFL. The first time you ever win a playoff game. The first time you ever win a division. You win a playoff game. All these different type of things. So just fast forward to 2024, 2025. Same thing, just on the offensive side of football. So you go out there, you get rid of Bobby Slowik. Check 1. Check 2. Hire somebody with some offensive play calling experience and a former head coach. Is it Chip Kelly? Is it Doug Peters? Is it even potentially Frank Ross? I don't know. I mean, Frank Wright. I don't know. Free agency wise, we all know it's the offensive line. You go out there and you put some hogs up there in the offensive line. You go out there and you sign some offensive linemen. You draft. You go out there. You get a big. You really just need some guards. I think all you gotta do really is because just like them, they took a cornerback and what you call it, and move and Glover Quinn and moved him to safety. Hey, you make sure that what you call it is your what you call it is your center, or you go out there, you get a veteran center and you move passing back to center. I mean, you move passing back to guard, and you get you a right guard. That might show up your offensive line, especially with some good coaching. And then in the draft, you make sure you put some receivers out there, so you have somebody opposite of Nico, or you go out there and you can possibly trade and sign for some receivers, because I actually have a video, because I actually have a list. I ain't gonna lie to you, I ain't gonna fake it. I actually got a list of 5 potential receivers that the Houston Texans could end up being on the Houston Texans roster in 2025. Somebody I have and I think one of them I really, really want that I think is the best case scenario. Well, I think is the best case scenario for the guys on the list. But he's not the person who I think is going to be the easiest to obtain. There is one person over there I think is the easiest to obtain. He's my number one. It's based off of, I have him ranked not of what I want, but just based off of who I think you have the easiest to get and the furthest to get. Number 1 is the easiest player I think you can get. Number 5 is the player that I think is the longest shot of those 5. And I have that video. I should be dropping that video sometime this week. I might drop it Monday. I don't know. Might drop it Monday. Might drop it Monday. Might drop it Tuesday. I don't know. But I'm gonna drop it sometime. Now don't worry. It's gonna drop sometime this week. So y'all make sure y'all be on the lookout for that. But yeah, so either do draft sign somebody on the offensive line and draft some weapons, some receivers to help pair up with Nico, so CJ's not there by himself, because I don't think that Tank Dell. I know Tank Dell was on live or whatever, and he said he's gonna play next year. I don't think Tank Dell playing next year, and even if he does play, I don't think that he's going to be the same Tank Dell that we seen. He wasn't even the same. Tank Dell wasn't even the same Tank Dell this year that we seen in his rookie year. We're talking about a guy that's coming off a fracture in his leg, getting shot in his leg, and now getting a dislocated kneecap and tear his ACL, his MCL, and his LCL, and dislocating his knee, not kneecap. I'm sorry, dislocating his knee. I don't know if this guy is going to be the same when he does step out there and play. I'm not counting on that. Same thing with Stephon Diggs. I don't even think Stephon Diggs will be a Houston Texan. I kind of really, I actually don't care, but because I think if the Texans do something, I said this last week, there's more so of a salary cap situation, because he's going to cost you $16 million on your books anyway. So if you bring him back, it's to stretch that out. So instead of it be a $16 million cap hit, it's a $12 million cap hit, a $11 million cap hit, potentially a $10 million cap hit, $15 million cap hit, something of that line, something of that juncture. So that's why I think is the reason why you will bring him back if you do. And again, we're talking about a guy who at the time he's gonna be 32 years old coming off of a torn ACL. I don't know. And he's a guy that lost a step last year in the last 5 games going down the stretch in Buffalo. He lost a step then, let alone what he's playing now. And now also coming off of a leg injury and him being at the age of 32. Again, I don't think that either one of those guys are going to be main contributors in this 2025 season. So you need to operate like all you have is Nico Collins. And then in saying that, you also need to operate on as, hey, Nico don't play a full season himself. So we possibly need to get somebody else up in here too to help out. Because we don't want to be in a situation where we're back in the playoffs again and your only receiving option is number 12. That's not good for CJ. That's not good for the Texans. That's not good for the offense. So that's what I feel like you should do. So either sign some free agent alignment and draft some youth and talent at the receiving end, or sign some talent at the receiving end, or trade for some talent at the receiving end, and make sure you bolster strengthen the offensive line with a veteran head coach. And I do think that we'll see a huge difference in the Houston Texans offense coming this season. Man, I like to appreciate everybody that came through here. Man, appreciate everybody that came through here on the Saturday late notice. Because at first I didn't know if I was gonna go live or not, but hey, I appreciate everybody that came through here, man. If you ain't hit the like button already, man, make sure you hit the like button, man. I'm gonna give y'all some time. So if you ain't hit the like button already, make sure you hit the like button right now. I'm gonna give y'all some time. If you ain't hit the like button already, man, I'm gonna give y'all some time. Hit that like button right now. I'm gonna give y'all some more time. Already, man. Appreciate everybody that hit the super chat love. Definitely appreciate that. Y'all know how much that means to me, man. Y'all really don't. Y'all really don't understand how much that means to me when y'all hit that super chat love, man. Definitely appreciate that. Like I said, make sure you hit that like button. I appreciate that as well. Because again, hey, and when you hit that like button, it helps out the algorithm. So it lets YouTube know that, hey, people rocking with the channel, people rocking with the content. So, hey, y'all want more content because more content is coming. Because I got some stuff in the works, especially with the free agency and the draft and stuff like that. I got some names. I want y'all to be. I want Texan fans this season for 2025 season. I want the Texan fans to be more prepared about potential people who the Texans sign and also who the Texans draft. Because like last year when we drafted Kamara Lassiter, some people didn't know who Kamara Lassiter was, even though he went to Georgia. Some people didn't know Kamara Lassiter because a lot of people wasn't talking about Kamara Lassiter. People was talking about Kool-Aid and stuff like that, but people really wasn't talking about Kamara Lassiter. Me included. I apologize. That's part of my fault. I didn't prepare you guys enough so y'all would know who these people are. So I want to do better this coming season. So I want people to know before the draft gets here, these certain guys in these certain positions, first round and late round guys. Now, I ain't gonna do everybody. People gonna be drafted in the seventh round now. Or potential undrafted free agents. That's a lot of people. So some people I'm miss on some people, but I do want people, especially guys who drafted, who are going to be early to mid draft picks. You should definitely know who these people are, and you should definitely know where they rank upon the positions. Even though it would be my personal opinion about where they rank in the positions, but you should definitely know who these people are, so you won't be confused. Same thing with free agency. Same thing with free agency. I know some people like throughout the season, people like, who is Miles Bryant? Like, who's this guy out there, Miles Bryant? I actually talked about Miles Bryant. I actually did. So some of y'all missed it because I talked about Miles Bryant. He played for the Patriots. I talked about Miles Bryant. So I'm going to do a better job to prepare y'all this coming up season for free agency and for the draft. So when some of these names pop up, y'all know exactly who these people are. So, like I said, I appreciate everybody coming through here, man. Appreciate all the love, all the super chats, all the likes, man. Appreciate that. Hey, click that bell, get more videos. Hey, if you haven't seen my videos, if you want to know my opinion why I do my number one candidate is Doug Peters. If you want to know why my number one candidate is Doug Peters, man, make sure y'all go check out my last video. I explained it in my last video why I dropped yesterday. So go look in the video right there. I just dropped it yesterday. It's about 20-minute video explaining why Doug Peters is my number one candidate. Again, I got a list coming out of the top 5 receiver free agents or receiver moves rather that the Houston Texans could potentially handle and have this offseason. So make sure y'all be on the lookout for that. Just because the season over, like I said, the lives ain't going nowhere. I'm still go live weekly. Probably tomorrow, not tomorrow, but probably this coming up week, it will be on a Friday. So, hey, so like I said, appreciate everybody come through here, man. Hit that like button if you haven't. Click that bell, get more videos. I holla.